assassinated the leader of the Space Texans, or allowed the assassination to take place.
Look, it's the Capellans. We shouldn't ask too much about them. They're not good people. Hello, everyone. Looks like we are live. I don't know if anybody else is joining. I don't know who is going to watch, but we're going to be talking about all sorts of stuff tonight. And we started talking about the fun people in the periphery. I'm thinking of maybe doing that one next time. Today, we're going to start by talking a few things, and War of 3039 is the main book we're going to be covering. Price on that one varies heavily. I've been looking here. There's all sorts of things in between, but the price kind of goes from $30 US all the way to $80 or so. So this is not the easiest paper copy to get, I would say.
I just bent the rear pages of mine.
That is a very sad statement. It's paperback, right? It's not hardcover. Yep. Mm-hmm. How's the binding on it? Is it a decent book, or is it kind of cheap?
Considering it's 20 years old and the only damage to it is the 2 creases I put onto it last night because it fell on me in my bed. That's it.
Okay. It's a pretty good quality book then, which is always a fun thing to get. The newer books are being all hardcover. They're going to last longer, hopefully.
I'm going to put a big asterisk there.
Hopefully is the important thing.
Time will tell. I picked up the Universe book the other day, and I mean that's as thick as one of the split rule books before Catalyst split them. But man, I tell you, like when I cracked it open, it was like you could hear the binding, and I was just like, man, a book that's going to get heavily used and heavily readed in, and it's already starting to I'm starting to hear these cracks and fissures, man. Like, ooh, definitely not a leave it open on your reading stand
lectern.
Type of book.
On your lectern.
Yeah, don't leave it open on your lectern.
If any of you have lecterns, I'll be a bit confused, but it happens. We've got David in the house as usual, our intrepid mod. Hello and welcome in. We're probably gonna have a few more people show up probably. I invited a few other people if they're available. Quick news before we start, as people start walking in. Yes, I did it 2,000 subscriber. I'm actually at 2020 right now. It'd be nice to have 2024 before the end of 2024, but who knows where this
Congratulations.
is going. I started the year at around 600, so it's a very big climb. Let's face it.
Hell yes.
And it's a lot of fun for a lot of stuff, even though it is a lot of work. I have to be quite honest. There's days where it's a lot more work than I feel it needs to be, but hey, we're doing okay there. If we
I've only got 100, so you're doing way better than I.
There's a lot of things that I'm taking instant tricks and tips from all sorts of people. I haven't started posting shorts because I just can't stand them. Even my short 10-second video I did earlier today, I wanted to test if I was going to get copyright claimed on the Centurion song. And I wasn't. So I just posted it rather than, leave it on the channel just as hidden. I'm just going to make it public. And if people want to listen to a silly introduction, they'll be able to listen to a silly introduction. So yes, we do have the Centurion coming this week and the Stinger. I have the Jackal that's already recorded because I'm not sure what I'm doing this week. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to record anything or, it's Christmas, so my opportunities are going to be a little bit different, and I'm on vacation, so I don't have the same time spanned, but I do have like the Jackal ready to well, it's already recorded, it's good to go, and a few people already watched it. And I've got the Pack Hunter that I've got also, basically the same mech but on both sides of the border. The Jackal being very ugly while the Pack Hunter looks good. I mean, we've been doing pretty decent recently. I mean, I'm actually happy to show the numbers. People can actually have an idea of where things are standing. Yes, I'm getting 1,800 views. Depends on the mech, depends on what I'm doing. I mean, some videos do better, some videos do worse, but even old videos still get views, which is what you're kind of wanting to have on a good channel. Someone here to kill Avion and chew bubblegum. That's a sad statement, but yes, that's what's happens a lot during the War of 3039.
Oh my god.
If you have the PDFs, you could have the bulk self-printed with better quality if the local printer lets you do it. Not everybody is going to let
just
you.
Honestly be happy that you're doing 3 times as much views as wonderful Catalyst Games Labs official YouTube channel.
There is that, but I mean, it's work in a way. I got to keep talking to people. I got to keep posting videos. That's the only way you're going to grow a channel. If you take too long breaks or stuff like that, bad things end up happening often enough.
The whole algorithm just collapses on you. But yeah,
the algorithm is weird, but a lot of people blame it for things that aren't the algorithm's fault. I mean, a lot of it is your own fault. I'm trying to learn how to do it better as well on places like Twitter, places like Facebook, because it is a bit of an annoying kind of thing.
The problem is they keep changing the rules.
That is an issue. Let's face it.
Because let's be honest, you know, Elon's now saying that hashtags no longer exist. So guess what?
Yeah, a lot of people. Well, I mean, it was that way for a little while, and I mean, I don't see a lot of people using them anyways nowadays, so it's might be a good thing. But I know in YouTube you need those hashtags or those tags in your videos to give it a not a boost, but just to identify that this is what you're doing. So I mean, it is odd. What else do we have going or going in soon? Well, I keep saying that I want to get that campaign going, and it's coming. So we're going to have, well, either scheduled or regular Mega Mech games on the channel. I would like to have 1 or 2 per week by the start of next year. So not only can we show Battletech more, and we can try to have people start interact with each other more and play Mega Mech more, which is an important thing, I would say. And it's fun to play with people. So there we go. If we can get things going, I mean, I've got 3 players with a list for now. I'd like to have just a little bit more so I can have those 1 or 2 games a week and it'd be more or less steady. I know Armor said he wanted to play, so that's 1 more person that I just need to get with to figure out like when we'd be able to do stuff. Maybe Esbern as well. So we've got a few people that are saying that they might want to join in to that campaign. It's not as serious as like we need to have like all 7 players all together to play the games. It's going to be a lot of one-on-ones or 2-on-1. So it's going to be pretty easy. And welcome to the American Patriot. He's I'm gonna stream with him every once in a while too, probably, because he does stream too. So that's good people to have. What I've been working on a lot, I do have a few different bits of fiction that I need to put up on the website. But a lot of the things that I've done recently, at least, is flesh out corporations, flesh out military outfits, and even full factions, especially around that region of space where the campaign's going to be. So a lot of Marian hegemony stuff, Lothian League, a bit of the Magistracy of Canopus. So I have to grow things steadily. Canopus is I'd like to have a full write-up on Canopus, but that would probably I need to both read the actual book for Periphery again and dig into like modern stuff for Canopus, which is not always easy to find. So we're still working on Vengeance as we can. Sorry?
Like slavery for the Canopian stuff.
It's just that they sell the stuff. They don't use the stuff. Well, not openly. And it's hard to get all the details as well. I do have a few things that I want to work on. So
is there any difference? Is there any difference between class citizen and the Capellans and pleb and the Marian hegemony? No, you're both pretty much slaves.
No, plebs in the Marian hegemony. Once you start looking into it, they're your average no vote citizen because you don't own land, you don't own anything. And they've actually expanded what you're allowed to do by having the plebeian tribune. So it is surprising. Like a lot of stuff that I've written recently on the Marians is really like, yeah, everybody thinks they're this way, but they haven't been this way since the jihad, basically. I mean, there's a lot of slavery still, yes, but it's not as bad as people think. And there's a lot.
I guess a neutron bomb being dropped on your capital helps.
In the Marian hegemony, you can buy your way out of slavery. That's basically how it was in Rome as well, but it's really not easy to buy your way out of slavery. I'm telling you right now, but it is possible. And if your owner acts like a douchebag, you will be able to buy yourself out of slavery a lot easier as well, because he's going to get penalized and you're going to get the money he gets penalized from. The laws in the Marian hegemony are pretty straightforward. Are they nice? Well, not compared to like modern day us, but it's probably better than a lot of African states where there are still a lot of slaves, as an example. Well, the Capellans allow free healthcare and education for the indentured. There you go. It's a much better. The thing is, the Capellan Confederation also has slaves and that are under the indentured, but they don't talk about them a whole lot. There's not a whole lot of very good people in that whole region of space. Let's face it.
There's not a lot of whole good people in Battletech. Let's be honest.
There's the Great Et Legion, if you believe what you see in the in their books. I always say whenever I do the videos, it's always like, the romanticized version of the Great Et Legion stories. I have a funny thing I need to record as well for that. I'm having fun, but I probably need to mess around with some video editing and stuff like that. If I wanted to do that particular video, would be a little bit harder, because I'm thinking of a video game in the Battletech universe that is not Mechwarrior or Airbrain Scheme Battletech. The kind of silly game that you would have, like we have nowadays, where like a single tank or a Ace Combat, where you're in a single airplane taking out entire regiments.
They made that. It's called Mechasalt.
Yeah.
Look it up.
I know.
There was actually a canceled GDL game.
I didn't know that. That could have been or would have been a lot of fun.
It was supposed to be for Sega CD back in like 92, 93, somewhere in there.
Non-people are not slaves. Sun Tzu Liao. There you go.
So it was
right.
probably going to be a full action movie kind of Wing Commander 3 thing.
I mean, honestly, that's basically what I was writing about, something like that, where you have, your Locust, but it has an Arrow 4 launcher mounted on it because it's a video game. You can do that in a video game, right? Etc., etc. And the plot being super cheesy and all that stuff on top of it. I have the write-up of that somewhere. I mean, I've got so much stuff written up. I need some editing on a few of them, and I've got... Well, this one is not terrible. There's only 15 pages that I need to port over. I mean, there is quite a lot of stuff in Battletech Vengeance, and I'm growing it. And it also helps flesh out units that are in regular Battletech that people don't hear about or haven't talked about, even though I put my own take on a lot of it.
Catalyst was in such an all-fire hurry to sneak the Viper into the Ilclan Rec guides. The mech that ends up being the mech that you see the silhouette on the older record sheets. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, when are they going to introduce the Ragnarok and the Prometheus and the Ragnarok
Warlock.
and the Prometheus? The Ragnarok. The lava gun. The mech that has the lava gun.
Look, it's CGL. They're weird. We never know what they're doing, and they probably don't know what they're doing. They just started they're announcing a new Kickstarter for the Lock, the massive book series.
One book series.
The Lock. It has one book.
I have no idea what this book series is.
That is the exact answer. Everybody.
The New York Times, is it a New York Times bestseller?
I don't even think so.
Oh, because I do know that this coming Tuesday Newsday is going to be, or not this Tuesday Newsday, but sometime this week. Probably because the people at Catalyst don't actually have families and they're a bunch of sinks, dinks, and neats. They're going to be doing a Let's Play live of the new Voltron game.
Actually, they're doing it now.
They're doing it right now?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm competing with that? Jeez.
They have 18 viewers.
Their numbers.
They have 18 viewers?
Hey, that's 8 more than me. They're winning.
Eight more viewers than us, and
I saw it.
Voltron.
I saw it when I was looking to see where the view count was for versus Prof versus a CGL.
But this one, I've read the blurb. It looks okay. The guy who does it is a massive jock dude. He looks fairly badass just because he's huge and muscly. He's very white as well, so I'm not 100% sure where that's coming from. But they're cashing in. They're doing a big Kickstarter and everything on a book that has 27 ratings on Amazon, 22 on Goodreads. This is an odd gamble, let's say. The dude looks cool. The book itself, you read the blurb, it sounds, pretty nice, but I'm not sure this is going to be a massive seller.
Did we lose Tank?
No, he's still in the. He's still in.
When I lock my screen, it friggin' mutes me because I said that's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off. In regards to this Kickstarter.
The thing is, I'm not. Because it's a Kickstarter, I'm not giving them a penny. But the game itself and the setting itself might work. But we know that Catalyst can't write rules. But the rules are probably going to be written by that guy who wrote the book because he used to work for GW as well. So who knows? Who knows where this is going?
Well, some of these things that you're saying are just giant red flags on him. So,
yeah, there you go. CGL is trying to pull a free league publishing. Maybe. Free League has a pretty good reputation, though. You got to remember that. So if CGL did pull a Free League publishing, I'd be happy because Free Leagues is, good. Narrator, it did not pay off. That is a sad statement. I mean, Leviathan is supposed to be shipping start of next year. So at least this is supposed to be done. Supposed to. We will see how that goes.
Before or after Chinese New Year?
They said that it will be during Chinese New Year. So it'll probably get in the US by like June.
May.
And then people will get their shipping bill. And things will, do the exact same thing that Mercenaries did.
Yeah,
I'm trying not to laugh, and I'm not trying to be mean to the people who back Leviathan, but
no, it's sad that this is the second time that the fans, the universe is actually pretty damn cool, but the fans have been screwed twice.
Yeah, and CGL is not helping them, and this is that game is not going to be supported in game stores. I can already tell you that it's not going to be supported in game stores.
Battletech's not supported in a lot of game stores, so
I mean, there is a few here in Canada. At least they're in Quebec. There's a major one in Laval, so that's about 2.5 hours from when I at, or 15 minutes from where my brother lives. But I mean, they're the biggest Battletech store in Quebec, from what I remember. If I want Battletech stuff, I can usually just ask my local store, and they can usually bring it in. So it's not super difficult to get it.
Yeah, I was actually at the local game store because I won't give them the F in it. Their Battletech area has shrank. It used to be, I guess, one shelf unit. It wasn't that much, but still. Now they've put in some not the Battletech one, but it's the Hex terrain. That's taking up all the other stuff. So it's now down to like two half shelves, and then a couple books.
American Patriot saying that he backed Invasion and Mercenaries. He wanted to back Leviathan, but didn't want to risk it. I think that's a good statement. I'm really sad that people actually gave them the time of day for the Voltron stuff. They shouldn't have given a penny to Voltron while the other ones are not even fulfilled.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
The only thing I didn't like about Leviathans was when they started talking about everything will be pre-paints. I was like, I'm out.
I'm not a fan of pre-paints in general. Except for there's things where I would pre-paint. Like the G.I. Joe minis I've got, all those should be pre-paint. Because you're not going to paint Snake Eyes purple. Well, no, I shouldn't say that because I know some people will. Never mind.
Well,
Okay.
Wait. Comic accurate, you could kind of paint him purple and the dark.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. I mean.
Yeah, you're talking Barney purple.
Exactly. And teal, and
Yeah.
So let's get into historicals. It took a little while to look. The historical series, there's a bunch of books that they did in the early 2000s with the tag historicals. Most of them were for small periods of times where people were not well informed as to what was going to happen in that era, but it was in the setting. So those books are really, really important for people who are really in the lore. If you're into just playing the game, it varies heavily which one are good and which one are not super important. For grognards and grognettes out there, this one is actually pretty fun because it does still do the war of the Third Succession War, Fourth Succession War, so you don't have the super mega high-tech stuff, but you start to introduce it in this
Question on that one. Are you talking about the old style grognards or the new style that don't get past 3067?
That's the thing. BattleTech has 2 levels of drawing arts. There's the Forever 25s and the Forever 67. That would be better for the Forever 35. Forever 25
or 30 or
people.
40. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to, because not a lot of people know that.
Yeah. For people who are Forever 67s, well, it is what it is. But it is very
I'd also
interesting.
like to add that CGL has been promising we're going to enter year 6 now of re-releasing all the historicals under a new title and put them up for print on demand.
Mm-hmm.
This is year number 6. This was promised originally in 2019, before the pandemic.
Yeah. CGL has a track record for that, right?
And
But,
it's still on the website.
Oh, I'm not even wanting to get into that, honestly.
Which
Cover
they haven't updated in 6 months.
Cover is okay. It's not the best cover I've ever seen for a BattleTech book. It's not the worst cover I've ever seen for a BattleTech book. You do see a Kintaro, which is odd. It's not a mech that you see very often. Historical is now Brush War, only 80 years late. But I mean, this particular piece of art is kind of telling of what you're going to get throughout the book. It's hand-drawn. It's a very gritty look that we get throughout the book. And personally, I think it's a lot better than a lot of the stuff we were getting from CGL right now. Just because it's more humane or more human. I don't know. Is that a good way to say it?
It fits the setting better.
We start with a solid table of content. And yes, that basically is going to be the book. It is jam-packed with stuff. It's the same length as Interlands, more or less. But it took me 3 times longer to read when I was going through it, because it not only is it more dense in terms of stuff that's written, but it's also far more interesting in terms of stuff that's written, if that makes sense.
That's not that hard.
Well,
Sorry.
Interland was fairly lame. Let's face it. But if we compare to Empire Alone, or
I was going to compare it to Tomorrow Rising, because that's really what it should be compared to.
And if you compare it to Tomorrow Rising is an easy read. It's very short. It would be about the same length, but I mean, I'd be able to read Tomorrow Rising in an afternoon. This took me almost a day overall to read through it. At least seriously read through it. I mean, if I was just going sideways like I sometimes do when I read CGL books, it would have taken me a lot less time. And I think it's better set up than some of those books, because you start with a quick introduction, then the characters, then the actual plot, and your rule and X at the end. They still have the rule and X at the end for things like Tomorrow Rising, but the characters are like in the middle, and then you've got some story before, some story after. So it's a bit all over the place. So this is a little bit more straightforward. I like these text-heavy books. Sad to see CGL moving away from that. Well, there's a reason for that, and that reason is unfortunate, is that people just don't read anymore. So, I mean, we're lucky here. We've got
I was going to say, if you don't have a high word count, you don't have to pay the writers as much.
That too. We're lucky here. We've got Fuble and we've got Icarius, who both are avid readers. They've read a lot of the novels and a lot of the source books. So that's a good group of people to have to talk about it. But here, like I said, a pretty solid and heavy table of content, but it's good to have an actual table of content at the start. That's not just here's the chapters like we've had on some books, and not just CGL there. You have that in a lot of Wizard of the Coast books, former White Wolf books. Well, when originally White Wolf didn't even have table of content because they were too punk for table of contents. But this here is a very solid table of content. If you're like, what? I don't remember what happened on this particular planet at this on this particular planet, you can go like there. I want to see what happened on 1 and go to page 55, and I'm good to go because you're trying to play a game set on that planet, either for the RPG or for tabletop or for anything in the middle.
You officially now have the same number of people watching as people watching Voltron.
Let's try not to be too sad about it. The rule settings are for Classic Battletech and for Battle Force 2, which is a odd intermediate. Of course, Alpha Strike didn't exist back then, so of course we're not going to have any Alpha Strike stuff. There's very little prototype or special things in there. A lot of it is you have access to XYZ prototype equipment, and here's the rule for XYZ prototype equipment. We'll see it when we get to the very end of the book, or we could start with the very end of the book because that's a fairly quick section, actually. So there's the rule section is actually like 24 pages, 20 or so, and it's fairly heavy, but it's not terrible. This bit of art is really cool, just with a bunch of DCMS guys fighting. Credits is a single small column, including Matt Plug, and art direction Randall Bills, line developer Randall Bills, product development Randall Bills. We see that Randall was doing, almost everything at that time.
Let's go down the list. Who's actually still working there?
Randall Bills.
Actively. He's dragged out to make sure that the Gronards aren't. Let's be honest. He's the only reason he's still there is to keep us happy.
That is a sad statement. They thanked a bunch of their fact checkers, including a guy called Chinless. That means it's cool. They've got a bunch of playtesters, which is also pretty nice. It is tagged as WizKids because it is WizKids Fan Pro. And February 2005, so pretty good there. I mean, if you can charge for 3 or 4 short books with half the content, it's better than one large book. I would be okay with that particular strategy if their book releases were steady and high quality. The problem is they are neither. If they were steady and high quality ones, I'd be okay with that.
I mean, let's be honest. We're a year after Domains Divided, and we still haven't gotten the next storybook.
Il Clan was supposed to be out already, and I think it was delayed to next year.
Yeah, next month.
Till January
15th.
There you go.
January 15th.
And I'm not even sure I'm going to buy it. I bought the other ones. I'm not even sure I'm getting that one. Probably should, just because it'll tell me where they're going and compare it to where I'm going.
Might have new mechs in it.
Really? Do you really think they're going to put new mechs in there?
No.
They haven't.
I honestly want to say that Randall's only there to sign checks because that nobody trusts Lauren.
I've heard that Randall is there to maintain continuity, but has no real power. That's a sad statement.
That's why I was going with the whole that he's there to sign checks because the banks will actually.
We get a nice introduction by Anastasius Fox, and it's interesting to see his view on things, including talking about Misha Hoburn and talking about Nandi Steiner and how they don't really like each other. There you go.
Okay, that's not a rumor. That actually happened.
Okay. And at the start here is the only non-in-universe page, basically. Well, the rules setting at the end is rules, but in the lore section, let's say, this is the only non-universe section. Gives you an explanation of a little bit of what the War of 39 is, that there's going to be some discussion of the Free Worlds League as well, and some of the Capellan Confederation as well. They say how they name the operations with all in capital letters. That's a standard in Battletech. If you've ever read anything, all the name of the operations are always in capitals whenever you're dealing with anything. So it's always how it's going to be.
I am.
We have also we also have a nice author's notes section here on the side, where they're actually like, yeah, we were late on this one because it went from a 70,000 book page, 70,000 word book to 125,000 page word book. So that is a pretty big difference. And they add to fight with author and
they almost doubled it.
Yeah. And they actually add fact checkers and authors looking through things, which is I'm not 100% sure a current group are doing. And that's not just CGL. Once again, if you look at a lot of lore books from a lot of companies,
they're probably using AI spiders anymore, and that's it.
I hope not, because I did ask the AI about War of 39 and things didn't come out too well.
I'm just saying, why do you need to pay somebody when you got an AI to do it?
Okay, we're going to look at the rules section first, just because it's going to go fairly quick. And I just want to say, whenever you start a section, there's always 2 quotes, one historical and one in universe. A lot of the historical ones are pretty average and pretty like, this is the kind of platitudes that I expect, which is kind of boring when you have those kind of things. If you're going to use the best laid plans of mice and men go off the astray, I mean, this is just something you expect. It's not something fancy. It's not something new. And it's a problem you have with authors like Stackpole as well. They like to reuse those kind of things a whole lot. And it gets very, very annoying fairly quickly. Like I said, we're going to jump to the rules section just because there's not too much to talk about here. But there's a lot of stuff in general. The first big stuff is, all the units. And by all the units, it's literally every single unit. Where they were before the war, where they are after the war, what they did during the war, their experience level, loyalty rating, and equipment rating for every single one of the units. And when I say every single one of the units, it is every single one of the units.
And some units that didn't even exist during the war get put in there for where they exist in 30-40.
Like the Tikhonov Republican Guard. There you go. They exist. They weren't serving, but they're there. Draconis Combine, you've got the same thing. You've got every single regiment. At least those, I think, are all the mech regiment. I don't think the regular regiments are on there. But you've got the Ryuken, you've got the Ghost regiments, etc.
Yeah, they've never given...
Okay. Maybe for the Capellan Confederation, you don't have the whole thing. Or it could actually be the whole thing for the Capellan Confederation. Because they were just that sad after the last war.
No, it's just the units involved, because look at the Free Worlds League, it's only like 7 units.
Yeah, it's the units that are involved in the Free Worlds League. And you have a metric boatload of mercenary commands as well, including some that you fight in the video game. That's really cool, because I would say here the biggest representation of the War of 39 is in Mechwarrior 5 Mercenaries. You do the War of 39 campaign on the side of the Draconis Combine, because you basically get roped into it by ComStar. Weird things have happened there. And you fight the Knights of St. Cameron. You kill their commander, as an example. You fight Snords Irregular as well during the campaign. It's pretty fun. I really like. It's one of the better campaigns that they added in Mechwarrior 5 Mercenaries, I think.
Yeah, it's again like the only Hellhound unit listed is the first Hellhounds.
Hellhounds.
But they were two.
Wiley's
regiments of
Coyotes.
them.
There you go.
Yeah.
The Wiley's Coyotes are there. Most important unit. Not really. You also have it is also, if we'll get to it at some point, but it is also the first time we have Natasha Kerensky, or a good time where Natasha Kerensky basically bids her trinary against the Draconis Combine and beats them up. And she literally, does the whole clan thing. Of course, this was written after the whole clan invasion thing, so it's easier to retroactively introduce those things. But it's quite interesting to see that. The rule in X gives you, if you are customizing your mech, what you're allowed to have per faction and how expensive things end up being. So double heat sinks are really, really expensive. I'm still surprised that the Draconis Combine even has some, since they don't really have them during the early clan invasion, basically. You've got your equipment rating. What do they mean for the different units? Prototype and development dead. And we've got a cool industrial bit here. I think it's an Aramoto in the back here that they're mounting a gun on. I'm not sure, though. I'm not sure with the body kit in the back what
an Atlas
really is. It's an Atlas?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Ed.
Yep, that's an Atlas.
And the shoulder bolt.
There you go. You have the rules for the listen kill missiles. Basically, one thing that they tried to do and kind of messed up, because ECM being what it is, they don't even need to have ECMs to block listen kill missiles. So those things kind of disappeared. For prototype systems, you've got your double heat sink freezers, which are your double heat sinks that you mount outside the engine. You can't mount them in the engine, and you combine them with regular single heat sinks. I think that's what they wanted the technology to be at that point, because they noticed that double heat sinks were just way too good and everybody was just using double heat sinks. And that's what they would have wanted the technology to be instead. That's my idea here.
Wasn't listen kill one of the techs that was like it was an SLDF tech, but they forgot about it, and then somehow the Koreans got a couple when.
No, it's the Lyrans that have it.
Okay.
You get you get the prototype listen kill missiles in Crescent Ox Revenge, the second game in the Crescent Ox series.
I could never get past the first mission.
It is a very easy game. What are you talking about?
The first mission where you have to protect the enforcer that's half dead. There might have been a patch for it back then.
No. It is a crazy difficult game. Don't worry. It is not
that first mission was just stupid difficult.
What game? Crescent Ox Revenge for the IBM PC, to be precise.
286.
No, I think you need a 386 to play that one. I'd have to check. You have the ad for it in BattleTech Compendium from 1989, I think. Crescent Ox is a unit that's fairly popular. I mean, they were popular at the time. They had those two games.
The only bad thing is the Crescent Hawks are now what every unit is based on, because they're all splinters of the freaking Hellhounds.
No, that the Crescent Ox are what everybody is, basically, which is a my dudes kind of unit. Yeah. That's the sad bit. The game served as a prototype for what would later become Dune 2, the first real-time strategy game on PC. I didn't know that bit, actually. It is almost unplayable on a modern PC, just so everybody knows. It's almost unplayable on a modern PC because your PC is way too powerful to run the game. That's the real problem with it. It doesn't have a fantastic rating on a lot of games. It's not one of those games that's in the greatest game of all time, but it is a Battletech game, basically. I never played this game. Well, I mean, depending on your age, you might not even have been born when that game came out. I don't know. I don't know you personally, Mr. Dude, so I can't say that.
Well, let's just say the Crescent Hawks games turned into Command and Conquer.
Yeah, basically.
Because it was the same studio.
And I mean, I remember this interface and how terrible.
That's the first mission.
Yeah, I beat the first mission though. I got all the way to almost the end of the first chapter of the game. Okay. But I mean, since you can't repair between missions, since you can't reload between missions, like it's crazy at the end. Like you have an enforcer with a large laser and a small laser, and that's all you have that's actually working, and it is insane how difficult it gets.
I want to say every time I played the first mission, the enforcer got headshotted like round 2, like every single time.
It is not a kind game, let's say.
and the entire mission is based around protecting the enforcer.
Yeah. Dune 2 is a great game. I almost want to reinstall it every once in a while just to play it because it's fun. You've got prototype ultra auto cannons that are absolutely unplayable because if you shoot them at normal rate, they jam on a 2, and if you fire at double rate, they jam on 2, 3s, or 4s. This is do not use the ultra auto cannons. You've got a prototype LBX that have a penalty to the cluster and jam on a 2. I mean, that's also pretty darn terrible, and they take an extra critical slot. Most of these prototype things take extra critical slots. You got a Gauss rifle prototype that jams on a 2, but in this case, I'm okay with it because Gauss rifles are just that good. ER large laser prototype with a +1 to it modifier, so they are, and the medium pulse laser prototype, and both of them generate an extra D6 each whenever you fire them. This is also pretty much very, very, very hard to use efficiently. You've got access to anti-triple strength Myomer missiles in there as well. And you can use prototype endosteel and prototype ferrofibrous, which takes 16 slots instead of the 14. Yeah, this is playable though. This is doable. The ferrofibrous armor with 16 slots is easy to fit on most 3025 mechs. So, and it'll give you that extra 12% of armor, which is sometimes enough to make a difference. Almost 40, grew up on StarCraft, close combat. You're in the exact, you're almost in the same generation as me. I am 40. I'm not almost 40. I am 40.
Yeah, I'm 40. I'll be 44 in a month and a half.
Yeah, I mean, it's Battletech. Everybody that plays it is old.
Yeah.
The random assignment table, you got a random assignment table for the fancy mechs. Those are basically your 2750 mechs that were given to the Dragonist Combine by ComStar, plus the various version of the Yamamoto.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the middle, the
Mauler gets one special level.
Oh, it's because the it's got the wrong weight on it. It's the wrong weight on it as well.
Because that was added later, was the actual original version. Was it the Dobaku or whatever?
Doboku. The entirely terrible Mauler. Not just the bad one, the entirely terrible one.
The one we went out of the way to make bad.
I mean, the sad bit, you've got the Yamamoto Chi and you've got the Tug 11E. I'll take the Tug 11E for a single reason. You got 2 ands instead of just 1. never mind. I know a guy that's really mad that the Yamamoto doesn't have 2 ants, and I understand why. Then you've got the actual assignment table for each of the factions in order for mechs and vehicles. Those are really solid rats out there. They would be usable for end of the Fourth Succession War all the way to Clan Invasion. I think those particular rats, they would be usable in that entire time frame.
I'd even say even into the Clan Invasion.
Early Clan Invasion, maybe. Yeah, but the early Clan Invasion, you start getting a lot of mechs in 3049. 3048 to 3049, you start having a lot of the base upgrades for the standard mechs, your things like your Phoenix Hawks, your Centurions, your Commandos. You start getting the upgraded versions available. You've got your Battle Force quick little thing. And out to play Succession War, the big game in 3039. This is a lot more complex. This is not going to be used by most people because you need to have that 34. You need to have that Succession War game. It's still not super popular. And here, the leaders and faction section with the leadership rating. I'm not sure I would have put Foch as a 9 in that particular era.
No, he was unknown at that time.
And he wasn't a great commander just yet. He was still learning the ropes. Theodore Kurita being a 6 and Anstavion being an 8 kind of makes sense. The rest also kind of makes sense. Generally,
he was not a political leader at the time because that's the reason he became Foch. He backed the wrong pony.
3. Ryan Steiner 3. Gee.
Yeah.
Well, Romano Liao 3. That's probably I for.
I'd put her above Hacken Magnuson.
No. Romano Liao was already going completely insane at the time.
I know, but she's still.
In terms of leading a larger nation, yes, but she wasn't a better leader. At the end of the very end of the book, we have an actual index. Thank the gods. We have an actual index. 3 or 4 pages, 3 pages of I'm actually looking for something and I don't remember where it is in the book. Supply depot attacks in 3034. This is a index. You don't have that in almost any rule books nowadays, sadly enough.
That's why the PDFs are searchable.
Yeah, that's a big advantage of PDFs, to be quite honest. There is no glossary. They do expect you to kind of know the setting a little bit, unfortunately. Doing a full glossary of Battletech would be pretty difficult. Hey, it might be a plan of something I could do next year. That would be a bit of a challenge, but doable.
You usually get.
I thought that's what the universe book was supposed to be.
Novels.
What do you say, Curious?
You usually get the glossaries in the novels, not in the rule books or source books.
True. The novels are pretty good at that.
Well, that's because that way you don't have if a normie picks up a novel and likes it and then sees the glossary to explain it, they don't have to go buy another book.
Mm-hmm. The start of the actual book, it's an historical, so it's really going to go pretty much in historical order. Explaining it real quick, the Fourth Succession War, and how fun that was. This book is so much more complete than the current group of books. Yes, by a massive margin. It's not even fun.
I think the hard part on really judging that is that this event is over. It's got a timeline of 1 year, basically 18 months, where the new books are going forward.
The problem with the new books is that I'm not sure they know where they're going either, so that doesn't help.
What you should be comparing these the new books to would be Tomorrow Rising should be compared to Dawn of Jihad.
That'd be an idea. Yeah, we might look into them at some point.
Yeah, because
we have a nice big section on the rise of Teddy K, Theodore Kurita, which is good enough as an introduction to the character and what was going on. And we get a nice big section on just that old paragraph here, basically saying, yeah, ComStar are the ones that were manipulating the whole thing from the back. That EK did a pretty good job, though. I'll be honest, if we look through the whole thing, even though ComStar had their hands on everything, he managed to keep his head above the water in through that whole thing.
I'm going to mention something that we talked about before we went live. The nice thing about this book, not every page has a sidebar.
True. There's small sidebars as well in a few of them, but usually the sidebars are related to the material that's right next to it, or gives you a good, usually are not essential to be read in a way as well.
Yep.
So.
And then the other thing I wanted to mention was the in-character writer of the book. It's a sad way his character came out. He was another victim of the Donner bombing.
There you go. We have a little section on Independence Fever because that's an important bit that leads through the War of 39, where the Free Rassilade Republic became independent. We don't have any serious books about the Rassilade Republic, do we?
20-year update.
Was there a Rassilade Republic handbook?
No.
And there's barely any novels about the Rassilade Republic as well.
Correct.
So again, the best source of information for the formation of the Rassilade Republic is Mechwarrior 5. So I know a lot of people don't like Mechwarrior 5 Mercenaries, but if you want to play in that particular era, that's basically what you have, unfortunately.
Hair to the Dragon speaks on it a little bit.
American Patriots saying it was part of the ComStar book. That is quite possible. So we have that information on the Ronin War really quick here, including the death of Marcus Kurita. He probably deserved it. We'll just go with that. Then we have a little bit more on the disguised secessionists. They keep doing that.
The historical brush wars did cover a little bit of just the Ronin Wars.
All right. So we've got, it is a major event in the setting, just not covered whatsoever.
Yeah.
So Brush War is basically where you'll get most of your FRR stuff. We get a nice wedding picture from for Ans Davion and Melissa Steiner. Probably one of the better piece of arts in this book. We get I
was going to say the black and white art still has more character than anything else in the in any of the current books.
That was because it's hand drawn and not CG, basically. And I mean, this we know it was done by someone and not by an AI assisted kind of drawing. It's kind of sad. We get a little bit on Duke Sandoval and the Ans Davion. It's fun to actually have a little bit more information on the Sandoval before the Civil War, because if you look through a lot of books, you don't get a lot of details on the Draconis March, because a lot of the early books are all concentrated on the Capellan March. So interesting to have a little bit more info on him, and the man who would have the son who is important, that kind of situation. We have quick details also on the ComStar slash intelligence war with the Federated Sons and the Lyran Commonwealth. And this is where I keep saying, like, a lot of people said, like, oh, but ComStar died like too quickly, and we don't know why they died. This is why ComStar died throughout the 31st century. People started knowing that they were a bunch of assholes. They didn't know ComStar were assholes before this particular era. And when you get revealed to be an asshole, and you're the banks and the comm companies and everything else, things tend to go really bad for you really quickly.
I was going to say that the eye-opening for most of them was when Wolf, Teddy, I forgot who the other character was, but there was like 3 of them on Terra, and they accidentally got into one of the vaults. And then they saw, holy shit, they have 3 regiments in this one vault.
It was Shin Yodama who saw the Max, if I remember right.
Yeah, I just remember.
Shin Yodama. It was, what's his name? Shin Yodama is the later on. Crap, what's his name?
I could have sworn it was Wolf and Teddy.
It's Wolf, Teddy, and the guy who joins the Wolf's Dragoon later.
Oh, Michi.
Yes. And my PDF reader is just crashing. There we go. Come on. Let's just try to see if it recovers. It's not. It is. Okay. There we go. There we are. The start of the War of 3039. Yvonne Steiner Davion is born. Katrina Steiner retires, and things go from there. I don't like this line here. It's once again overused. I mean, yes, Caesar said it, but that doesn't mean you need to say it in every single one of your books, right? Or that might just be me, but there you are. This one, though, is a nice quote from a pilot in the 6-Day War. Not one that I've really seen anywhere else. That's probably why. That's why I find it a little bit more interesting, because it's not something that I've seen a million times before, basically. The maps...
Hey, look, there's something missing from this map. I wonder what it is.
What? I'm missing something here.
Something we talked about in Hinterlands.
Oh, the jump routes. Yes. You have routes, but that's the routes people took to go to different places. Those are not jump routes. They're, just the routes you used for jump. Very different, even though it kind of sounds the same.
Correct.
It's not missing. It's that it's added in Interlands, and it makes no sense.
Correct.
This ear on this sideline ear is a short story that's on I can't remember which book. Basically, all the plans for the war were going to be leaked because a guy stopped this car to buy a toy for their 6-year-old daughter and forgot to take their confidential briefcase full of information with him. But someone was nice, and I may be a thief, but I'm also a patriot. So he returned the secret documents instead of leaking them. So that's a bit of a fun aside, and that's a short story in I don't remember what.
It was probably on Battle Corps.
I think it was in Battle Corps, yes. More than likely.
Which means it's either in a not a shrapnel, in one of the 7 books that cover most of Battle Corps, but there's still quite a bit that's not in those books.
Mm-hmm. D-Day references, yeah, that's a good. If that is what it is, it's actually pretty good. We get a bit of a more like historical thing here. They were scheduling the attacks for 30-35, but there was a revolt in the Sky region of the Lyran Commonwealth. So, well, they couldn't start at that time. So that delay of 4 years probably saved the Draconis Combine. Let's face it. You get a lot of talk about the black boxes, which was the communication system that the Federated Sons thought was secret, but it wasn't quite secret. And that's a thing that they're retconning or trying to really remove from Battletech in the current writing, because they don't want people to be able to communicate properly because reason. I'm really not happy with the HPG blackout to begin with. And when I read that they decided that the black boxes, well, don't quite work, they just don't. It felt really, really weak and really, really lame, in my opinion, at least.
That's because they still haven't explained what caused the blackout.
Something happened. And it is poor planning, poor writing. But that's not just on CGL's part. That's also on WizKid Fan Pro for when they did their Dark Age stuff.
It can't be, because neither of those companies exist anymore for the most
but
part.
they're the ones who started it, and they didn't put down in writing what was actually going on.
We're going on 20 years. I mean, come on.
Yeah, we're going on 20 years, and there's never mind.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the only thing I want to be kind of. It's 20 years now.
They should be doing better than they are.
Yeah.
DCMS preparation tells you like what the DCMS was planning or what they were doing. Teddy K basically said, like, let's wait until the enemy strike and then figure out what we're going to do to flexible response, which was the opposite of what the Draconis Combine had been doing through the history of the Draconis Combine, basically. There also were a bunch of new regiments that were based off the Yakuza, which we see more of during the clan invasion. So that's an important bit of information through the setting. You get your table of ranks. Can be useful, especially because they're going to use the Japanese terms throughout the book. So good to have it right there. The personalities section, like I said, I do prefer to have all my characters at the start of the book rather than the end of the book, because, well, that's a good place to have them so you actually know what's going on. You do have a weird Great Satan reference right there, which I feel is kind of dated and kind of out of place. This is a 2005ism, basically.
Yeah, that was a George W. Bush thing, or
yeah. So there's a few of those throughout the book. They don't impair the writing a whole lot, but this one here really stands out in my opinion.
I think if it was written from like the Cappy, I could understand. But it's Doc Travana writing this one, so.
We get a nice, good profile on Ance Davion. We get a nice profile on Melissa Steiner, even though she really doesn't do much. Let's be quite honest. She's a good wife, but that's about it for a lot of it, at least in that period. Katrina Steiner, we've got the old woman, Katrina here. But we do get a more or less complete background on her. old Takashi and young Theodore. Well, young. He's not that young at that point, but, is there. Takeshi Kirita falling into paranoia. They say that in a lot of places, but when I read through the novels and through a lot of stuff, it's not paranoia when people actually want to kill you, right? I guess it is.
Yeah. Well,
yes, he wasn't as good in the 30s as he was younger. That is for sure, though. Theodore, we get a very nice background on him as well, and tells us like how he differs from his father and pretty much everybody else in the Draconis Combine, which is pretty interesting. Got Nandi Steiner, which is a character that is, I'm going to be mean here, I find her uninteresting through most things. I understand why she exists. Mm-hmm. She got what she deserved.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like she's an uninteresting character. I understand why she exists in the universe and stuff, but she doesn't have a very good arc, and she's quite annoying, basically. Here's a guy that you have never heard of, Rand Felsner. He exists. There you go. That's basically who he is. He is a good commander. It's just that we don't really know a whole lot about him. Another fairly lame character, Vanessa Bisla. I just don't like, I guess, the Ardas Steiner general archetype. But, it's different. Still confused why Nandi stuck with Katrina till the end. Yeah, it is a very odd plot point.
I would say that what it is. It was sometime a child reminds them of the like an aunt is reminded of her sister by the child. Because if you look at the picture of Katerina, that's how I envisioned Katrina to look. She was older when she died. So,
at least for Vanessa Bisla, there is a fun aside here where she was estranged from her husband. She had an affair with a mid-ranking officer and divorced her husband and married the officer. That's fun. That gives a lot of depth to the plot and to the characters in the universe. It does give you an idea that they don't just exist to be characters, but they exist to be humans in the story, basically. So this makes her, I think this makes her more interested in Nandi Steiner. Arden Sortek is the, I would say, one of the most important character in Battletech for a simple reason. He's in the first book and he's in the last book, if you go by the basic FASA timeline, basically.
Right.
And he's interesting throughout as well. He's a fun, odd character. I like that he has a nice comb over ear. You're not fooling anyone, Arden. And
he's got the Homer Simpson going on.
He's got the Homer Simpson going on there. That's for darn sure. We all have that one boomer aunt and uncle that is a diehard in their political belief, no matter what. Same case here, I imagine. Yeah, that's probably Nandi Steiner. That's probably who she is. James Sandoval, very interesting character, even though he wasn't talked about a whole lot. He's very important to the plot, especially in Civil War. But before that, he just exists as a character. And here it gives them a lot of depth, like more depth than he ever had before, basically. Michini Kotsuna, kind of the same thing. Another character that was in the background a whole lot of times. And here we get a very nice block of characters for it. Kind of sad that we have like 3 combine characters and a whole lot of AFFC characters, but that's what they decided to go with. Because if they started going with every single officer, we'd have 3 entire books going on there.
God.
Which Sandoval was the one that was like re-Drac, kill Drac? That's every Sandoval except the last one. That's basically it.
I was gonna say everyone except Tancred, right?
Exactly. Everybody except Tancred Kurita and Tancred Sandoval is all Draconus Combine members must die. And Sandoval's no better. And he's the one that wanted the war to go on, even though they were losing, because he just wanted to kill Draconus Combine people. He is not a very nice person. That's an interesting character to have in the AFFC, AFFS, whatever, in the FedCom, because most of the FedCom characters you can relate to more easily. They're nice. We'll use air quotes there. I mean, Ants Davion, you can understand his motivations. You can understand the motivations of most of them. James Sandoval and most of the Sandoval family, the motivation is a lot of our people die on Kentares. We need to rectify that.
It's been 10 generations and we're still trumping the same horn.
Don't worry, I've added them. I've added some religious fanatics and vengeance just for that as well. If I was the first prince, I'd be like, can you stop killing Drax for 5 minutes? That's a big ask there.
That's what Victor asked, and it happened for like 2 minutes, and then they went back to it.
Yeah, there you go. Again, a very lame quote here from Henry V. We get the idea here that both sides knew the war was coming. So unlike the Fourth Succession War, which was a stealth surprise attack, this one was like, it's going to come. We just need to know when, basically. Ans Davion got his casus belli from it. He basically manufactured a shooting, and there you go. The war started from there. There's a lot of stuff going on throughout it. 34 warlords were attacked at first, and at the end of it, like 4 remain in the hands of the Federated Sons. So this is not the most efficient attack by the AFFS, and it's one of the greatest comeback story in terms of how the DCMS kicked their ass back, basically. I'd like to read more about the AFFC reaction to the Combine getting Operation Rosebud mech and equipment. That's a problem throughout this whole book and throughout Battletech in general. If the Combine gets all those fancy mechs and all that stuff, and it's coming from ComStar, things should have gone a lot worse for ComStar in this particular section of the story. Because the largest nation would have been like, no, ComStar, you shouldn't be providing military assistance to our enemy if you want to remain a neutral nation. And they should have just, landed every single regiment that they had sent in the DCMS. When they recalled them, they should have all landed them on Terra. That's what they should have done in response. That's what I would have done if I was Ans Davion, at least. Because there's no reason for ComStar to be supporting one nation over another. And what was ComStar going to do if you landed the entire AFFC on Terra? I mean, the Clan Wolf took Terra with less troops than that, basically. Let's just be honest. This is a weakness in Battletech in general, I think. The reveal of the Kong Guard was really screwed up. It was even worse because this This year should have led the Fed comms to take Terra and tell ComStar to knock it off. And then the Battle of Tukayid is even worse because ComStar reveals that they're able to fight the clans on an even footing. They get most of their units kicked off. So what should any nation around the inner sphere do at that time? Take Terra. This is a really weak spot here, and I know why they did it, because they wanted to copy Foundation and Dune. That's literally what ComStar is, something from Foundation and from Dune. And it doesn't work as well as it should in Battletech. There's too much here. How on earth do you secret away that many ComGuard unit mad equipment without anybody noticing? Space is big, I understand that, but at some point, there's a limit.
I was going to say nobody cared about Terra.
No,
the only people who cared about Terra was Terra.
No, that's the thing. Everybody cares about Terra in BattleTech.
Right.
Everybody wants Terra because they want to be the next First Lord of the Star League.
But it's one of those things where once you looked past it, that was like a really superficial reason, but nobody actually cared. It was more that claiming Terra gave them more authority, but they didn't actually care about Terra.
Yeah. But I mean, ComStar should have gotten their asses kicked a lot earlier than the Jihad, basically. Let's put the chips down on the table. I'm going to say a very controversial thing here. I know I've got a lot of ComStar people in the chat usually, but no, ComStar should have gotten their asses kicked way earlier than what we see here.
They should have lost against the clans.
I don't think they should have lost against the clans. The clans needed to lose. The clans needed to lose for the plot to work properly. But
how I've always looked at it is the ComStar is the sacrificial lamb that the clans basically burn themselves out on.
Exactly.
They get Terra, but they can't get to Terra. If that makes any sense, because now you have the FC and Draconis Combine ready to pounce.
There's things in Battletech that are well set up from the start. There's stuff in Battletech that is not well set up from the start, and I think ComStar is a big problem in it from the start. It's mean to say, and I know a lot of people like ComStar and the concept of the telecom, you know, the old joke that people keep doing. But the thing is, it's based off Foundation and Dune, and mostly Foundation, where the Foundation builds up a religious order around we're the ones maintaining all the tech throughout our region of space. I understand the concept, but it works in Foundation and it doesn't work in Battletech. Because in Battletech, everybody's got factories, everybody's got massive amounts of people. And unlike in Foundation, where in Foundation, Foundation also has the best starships, they don't have the best starships in Battletech. Even if they have warships, if you bring enough dropships and you land them on the planet, you're going to win.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Never mind. This is a whole other discussion, basically. Then we get invasions. What happened at what time on each planet? What I don't like is that it's in alphabetical order. It should be in temporal order. What was the first one was to the last one.
Okay. Because looking at that, Alanis is actually at the same time as Alcaris. But yeah,
well, that's all. They all start in April, but you've got some like April, June, April, July.
Really,
they all start in April, but they if you read through the different entries, you see that some happened before or was a longer time. like all the short ones should be at the start, all the longer ones later on, so you have a bit of an idea. Or really, like, this started on the 15th. This was one started landing on the 18th. This one started landing on the 22nd. So you have a better calendar of what was going on here.
Yeah.
It's true. I saw you wearing your FedCom patch today. You posted a picture of that. You are a good man for wearing your proud colors. Yes, I'm mostly a FedCom man myself as well, so it's okay. So this book is sad for me because my team loses. Then again, my team always loses, so it's okay. That's why I'm a forever game master. Most of the units, you get the name of the units that land on the different locations. You get their nicknames as well. Here, I've posted it here. The 8 Donald Guard, known as the Mud Wrestlers. So you get like their name, their nicknames, what they were kind of known for before. Then they land on what kind of planet it is and what kind of situation you kind of have on each planet. It is quite interesting to have all of those written in. It gives you a very good idea of what is going on and a very good idea of how it's going. And it gives the whole thing a very lived in kind of story as well. So if we look here on Altace, we've got our friends from the Great At Legion doing Great At Legion things, basically cheating. We have no idea how they managed to do these kinds of things. And usually with the first wave and the first groups here, the AFFS lands on the planets and the LCAF land on the planet, and they take them in 1 month to 4 months, generally due to partisans or built-in defenses and all kind of stuff like that. Riding a Pale Horse. This one is a fun aside compared to a lot of the asides that we get in modern books. This one here is an interview between an interviewer and Mikhail from the Great At Legion. And rather than writing it in a nice, clean English, Mikhail is a Scotsman, and he speaks in a Scottish accent through the whole thing.
Really
until
bad.
Until the end, where Colonel Carlisle calls him, and he just goes, yeah, sure, we'll be good. He just speaks regular English. So this was all a show. Through the entire interview, it was all a show to look,
until you read the Great Death novels.
He's not that bad in the Great Death novels. This one here is, I had to sit and try to figure out what he was saying. I am not well versed in Scottish parlance, basically.
Next page, or 2 pages from now, I think there's an issue with the artwork there.
This one is a little bit, well, no, it's very weird. It is odd.
Well, I was going to say those mechs should be with Draconis Combine, because aren't those 3 katanas?
This could be a Crockett.
Or, yeah, Crockett katana.
It's weird that they're Fed Sun and that they're landing mechs, that the dropships that are landing are the Combine dropships when we're reading through a section where it's the Fed Suns that are landing. You're right. This one is kind of very odd, let's say.
Because that's the happy thing that the Kuritas got, and they got Crockett's and katanas,
I know. This one here may be a little bit weird. We don't have a signature on this one, so I don't know who made it. It could be an odd situation where he was just commissioned, and then you need to put the logos on, like a FedSun logo on something and a Kurita logo on the other. Okay. And this is what came out.
Basically AI prompts for an actual
AI prompts for a human being.
Yep. Here's 50 words. Make do with what you can.
There you go. The Battle of Constance is a really fun read. It's one of the longer one. It's a full page and a little bit. So it's a really long read. And it gives you a very good idea of how to fight a larger force with a smaller one on a planet that is very inhospitable. So a lot of the stories actually through this are fun because of that, because they don't read like modern, just, this is battle mechs in a modern warfare situation. It's battle mech on worlds that might not be, as clement or as nice as Earth is, or things along those lines. A lot of old Battletech art always boggled my mind because I tried to figure out what the heck was going on half the time. True. This book doesn't have too many of those. There's this one here that's kind of weird, but a lot of it is pretty good.
And it's really just the logos are backwards, pretty much.
Basically. Here we've got a whole lot of mercs and special forces fighting the 14th Legion of Vega and the 5th Amphibian Light Assault Group. So this is a bit of fun. This is the first usage of Arrow 4 missiles in modern history, since Snort Irregular had a bunch of Arrow 4s. So they decided to, bring them to the party. So
and the 17th Recon.
Yes, the Camachos Caballeros.
Yes.
I've just written a blurb for them for Vengeance. 3rd Legion, Tamarin Regulars, Camachos Caballeros. I've got them written up for Vengeance for soon. I'm going to probably drop them in during the week this week. Because right now they exist in Ilkan. We know where they are. We know what they're doing. And that's about it. We've got nothing else.
Aren't they just on the trendy worlds now as the kind of...
No, they work with the Tamarin Regulars and fight against the Marians.
Oh, God. Because I know for a long time they were just because the trendy...
Well, the reason is they're defending their worlds, but their worlds are in the way of the Tamarin Regulars and the Marian hegemony. So they kind of side with the Duchy of Tamarin Abbey rather than, Free Worlds League rather than siding with the Marians, basically.
Right. Because those were 3 of the planets that were never claimed by anybody, really, after the breakup.
Happy to hear that you're going to getting back into writing, Shaz. It's your stuff's really good, so I like reading it. The Dieron Trust, that's the next set of attacks. We've gotten the same kind of things. Who's involved in each of the attacks. And you've got different ways of doing different things as well. Example on Biham, they landed. The corporations were really, really mad because they were going to lose a whole lot of money. And the AFFS said, no, don't worry. We're actually, buying stuff off of you. We're not just going to steal it. And it led to that. This is a repeat from what we had earlier. We only had the top section earlier. Now we've got the full picture.
Hey, it's at least not repurposed Shadowrun art.
There you go. This is clearly Battletech art. You can really tell. Old Dieron at all costs. So the Battle of Dieron is a really nasty one once you go through it. And there's some references in it to books written in universe as well. So that's always nice when they do that in those books. Once again, makes the whole setting a lot more lived in, basically. So this is pretty interesting. Alstead Station. You don't have a whole lot of people blowing gaskets and things like that on dropships and jump ships, but you do have a few stories in it. So it's pretty interesting when they do that. So you have once again, a little bit more of an idea of what is really going on in the Battletech universe. On Kervil, that's the interesting one. On Kervil, they find an endosteel mill. The first endosteel mill of the era, basically. and they capture it. They grab all the materials that they can, send it to Nice, and Nice starts building Endosteel as soon as they can. So we have a good idea of where we're going here and what is going on. Kellhounds on the Shra with booby traps, kamikaze attacks, all sorts of things. This probably reflects a little bit on the war in Iraq, since this was basically going on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's standard tactics in guerrilla warfare. So, I mean, if it was written during Vietnam, we'd have maybe a little bit more of jungle fighting. But I mean, this doesn't age the book improperly, basically. Pike 4 has a problem with jury-rigged loader mechs and mining mechs, so mods, early problems of them. The thing is, when those mods start fighting, the Ants and Rough Riders, there's not much that they can really do. So at least they made sense of that. On Sabdakia, things go really, really well. They land, they conquer the place, nobody's really fighting, and they just get scared of everything because things are going so well that they don't know what's going on. That's an interesting aside here once again.
Yeah, things went so well that they developed PTSD because
things are going too well.
So well.
Benjamin Trust, Machiavelli is quoted here. Machiavelli is a fun one to read on war because you can read him in two ways. You can read Machiavelli as either a guy who wanted war and all those kinds of things, or a guy that was basically trying to teach people to not go to war and not do everything that he said, do the opposite to actually be a good person. It's kind of interesting. We get the map of the different attacks. Gives you an idea of where things were standing. This is the counterattack by the DCMS at the time. So it keeps going once again.
We're still in wave one.
Oh yeah. So the Eridani Light Horse, a unit that you will not be seeing used a whole lot nowadays because of legal reasons. Klatandu, another fun one. Your reference to Starship Trooper. And they do the opposite of Starship Trooper. Basically, they land and, the planet is just okay with being conquered.
Yeah, no, the thing is, a lot of the border worlds, they hoist one flag up and 2 weeks later would hoist another one up, so they got used to it.
But the DCMS throughout the whole thing made sure that this wouldn't happen by really having partisan unit trained, having the media underside, all sorts of things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an interesting bit of information that we have in there. Cool piece of art here. Not sure what it is, but it's cool.
Looks like war crimes.
Executing. Yeah, it looks like war crimes. Which, reading through this entire book, there hasn't been as many as you would expect, surprisingly.
Right. Let's be honest, the war crimes in Battletech is so overblown, it's not even funny.
No, it's not overblown if you look at certain eras. First Succession War, that's pretty nasty. Age of War, pretty nasty.
Anything after
War of Star League Aggression, pretty nasty.
But anything after the Third War, it's like,
not as bad. Let's see.
Yeah.
Here's a name you're going to see a whole lot of times: Cunningham. The problem is there's a whole lot of Cunninghams throughout the entire book, but they're all different Cunninghams. So be careful. You got to try to figure out which Cunninghams you're actually talking about through the whole damn book. It gets confusing. First Davian Brigade landing on a planet, doing a good job. This is basically the first actual AFFC regiment. So it's a combined force from the Lyran and the Federated Sons. So that's why this particular bit is a bit interesting. They land more stuff. There you go. Battle's not going as planned, which is interesting. So another thing that you're going to see a lot throughout this book here is, well, they have 3 regiments left of troops, but it's like 1 battalion of battle mech and a lot of heavy armor. Things like that. It does give you a better sense of just how much of the mech regiments and the forces in general are combined arms, or relying a whole lot on armor, at least in that particular era.
Yeah, I was about to say, the jihad is not as bad as people make it out to be for war crimes.
Well, there's random murders. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So
the whole Donner bombing is stupid, but
yes, there's a few very stupid era things in that book, to be quite honest. Not a book in the jihad general era, that is just there to clean out the slate, basically.
Yeah, because that way they don't have to write about those people anymore.
Exactly.
Even though they could have all peacefully died in their sleep between 3080 and 3030.
The mercenary supported action. This section is like planets where there was a lot of infiltrated people trying to flip things over. There's a fun reference here to the game Combat Man, where people can take part in realistic combat with simulated weapons. Laser tag, basically. Fancy laser tag. But a lot of these particular actions, they're very short, because basically the mercenaries land, and the people on the planet are actually happy to see them. So there you go. The one that's different is Arrow's son, because Yukon Yon is on the planet when they land, and things get really bad for the mercenaries for obvious reason. But as you can see, there's a whole lot of things going on in all sorts of ways, so it does get a little bit confusing. If you just do like me and you just do a straight read of this, you might get overwhelmed, basically. There's a Dune reference here with Duke Paul and his son Leto. Paul Stephenson and the Iversen Chasseurs. This one is a little bit weird. I don't think there's a whole lot of other stories about them. But it gives you a bit of an idea of what's going on. And they're basically trying to reconquer their own world, which is an interesting thing in the in Battletech, that some lords and ladies basically have a world of their own, and that they lost it, and now they want to reconquer it for themselves. It'd be nice to have more stories like that, and sometimes less of the massive stories, or of the we're cool mercenaries, we're doing a job for money, but we've got a heart of gold, or whatever.
They tried that recently, very recently. That's basically the main plot point for Letter of the Law.
Okay.
And
is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Let's just say that between page 1 and 315, nothing happens.
That's super interesting.
Basically, 315 pages pass, but really nothing in the universe changes. But there's some stupid secret about Stuart that you never find out about.
That is really sad, to be quite honest.
It's what is it, Thaddeus Merrick, and he goes to find his friend who's the heir to Stuart, and Stuart's been under the wolves for like 20 years now. And basically, yeah, nothing happens other than there's a couple battles, but the universe doesn't really change.
Can barely keep up with the famous Mercs unit and clans, individual numbered unit and clan galaxies. I can't remember all of that. That is 100% true. I would say, like Neg said right after, that's what Sarna is for. There's some units that you will remember who they are just if you've read enough novels, but that's about it, really. The Galadon Trust is the one that Arden Sortek was in charge of, and it's the one that kind of goes the best because Sortek actually knows what is doing. But, you know, there's still a few war crimes going on here, you know, killing 2,000 prisoners, you know, the average stuff. I think here there's a reference to what's the name? To Macross Plus with Ikaru Dyson, but that might just be an odd aside here. We got one situation where the AFFS actually, you know, overestimated the quality of their officers. Doesn't happen often, but it still happens, and it happens for everyone. And a bunch of civilians die, you know, the average kind of bad situation. Got a nice little aside here for a fortress dropship that was basically lost. It decompressed, so everybody evacuated, and then when they wanted to get back to the dropship to salvage it, well, it was gone, and nobody knows where it is. And some people saying it's the Minnesota tribe. Some people are saying the new Vanderburg White Wings. That's the that's ComStar. Clinton Scott Rhodes, Aliens,
which was ComStar also,
which is also ComStars.
Okay. There honestly was not that much hate for the Blackthorns. It was just that they forgot where they were.
Here, there's a reference to what's his name? The guy who made Titanic.
James Cameron.
Jameson Hamilton spent 3 years along with millions of Seabill trying to find the answer. That's clearly a James Cameron reference. With James Cameron putting all the money down to go to the Titanic's wreck.
Yeah.
It was around that era where we couldn't, you know, the only thing we could hear on radio is My Art Would Go On, basically. A sad situation. I mean, this doesn't age the book, though, because, yes, it was closer to the particular era, but we all know James Cameron is a nut job and does these kinds of things. And if you read it and you know James Cameron, there you go. You're good to go. They're talking about the Maginot Line here, which is weird. It's a reference we understand nowadays. I'm not sure you would understand it in Battletech because I'm not sure it would be remembered that deep in history. We also have a nice interview here between someone and an officer asking, like, what's the difference between, you know, stealing stuff and repossessing stuff and leaving the stuff to the people that's there. Trying to justify, you know, stealing entire dropship fulls of battle mechs versus, you know, leaving all sorts of goods on the planet. So there's a ear that's not comedic, but it's interesting to see like how the military would would try to justify some of those actions. Hermes, if you like Hermes, there's 3 here. It's probably one of the rare pictures of Hermes. The first knights, etc. And you've got the DCMS counterattacks starting at this point, where they made a mistake and attacked Calf, where the entire not the entire, but most of the units were parked there waiting to get deployed. So attacking Calf was not the best idea. And a group of people that were there were the Wolf's Dragoon. So when the Curetans landed there, they were quite happy to get their asses kicked.
Well, I was going to say Calf has always been like it's always been a shield planet. No matter what generation, Calf during the Chaos March, there was a whole bunch of units there. It's always been like one of those planets that's been hard to crack.
Mech Commander 2 did get the news broadcasts and interviews really well. I do agree with that. What I would have liked is Mechwarrior 5. There's news throughout Mechwarrior 5. I would have liked to have some of them narrated, or, you open it, if you click a button, it narrates it or gives you a video or something. But, that's probably too much to ask from Piranha. The actress they had to play Katrina was on point. I mean, finding a hot blonde is not terribly difficult in Hollywood. Well, it might be nowadays, but it used to be easy.
No comment there. It can go down so many rabbit holes there.
New Earth, a newer trading company, getting a whole lot of their stuff liberated by the by the Draconis Combine. New Earth trading company never had a very good luck with what they're doing
until they became a ComStar front.
Well, no, they were a ComStar front at that time, which is funny because you liberate stuff from a ComStar front and ComStar still backs you. Never mind.
Yeah.
Here we have a very fun thing: the Free Worlds League operation. The Free Worlds League did decide to go and attack during that era because they finally got rid of Andurian. They were like, yeah, maybe we can actually do something. In a rare intelligence coup, Safe alerted the Free Worlds League military to the withdrawal of the garrisons. Wait, yes, a rare time where Safe actually did their job.
Wait, Prof, wouldn't the NETC stuff just be insurance fraud?
That is a sad statement, and it could be.
Because ComStar tells them where to take, they take it, and NETC gets paid by the Federated Commonwealth. Big happy cycle. The money comes back.
Shadow Wars is basically the short section on the ISF and what they did to try to get the AFFC and stuff out of the way. You've got someone basically justifying they're a terrorist here. Yeah, I'm never a fan of people trying to do that. I prefer those who do what we must know. Whatever you do, mate, you're a terrorist. You're killing people for a political reason. That's the definition of terrorism. You're a terrorist, but you're sponsored by the government. That still makes you a terrorist. There we go. This one's pretty straightforward. It just tells you about the different spy agencies and what they were doing. It would give you a very nice background if you were to do a campaign in that era for the RPG. So you have a bit of an idea. You have the media conflict. This is an interesting bit as well because it does tell you like how the media kind of works in different places. With the 3 nations having free media being the Federated Sons, the Lyran Commonwealth, and the Free Worlds League. While the other 2 will have a very controlled media, let's say.
Again, this is through the lens of 2004, so
that is a very 2005 section. This one here is really dated here. They're talking about Renard Reportage, literally Fox News in French. I mean, that is very, very on the nose. Through reporting equitable and unbiased, with the only one word accurate being and. This is literally a dig at Fox News, which only really works in 2005. Whatever you think of Fox News, they're not as bad as they used to be nowadays. And the other news agencies in the US are even worse than they were back then. So kind of hard, let's say. So this here is dated, and it kind of hurts reading through it in a way. ComStar News Service would become INN after the secularization of the thing, so it gives you a bit more background there. You get a very big aside on the black boxes, like it's 2 pages long, but it gives you a very good idea of where it comes from, how it works, how it replicates, and the quality of the different models that you have, the K1s, the K2s, all the way to the potential K6. So, I mean, I know they don't want to have that because the HPG blackout is really important, but this should basically tell you that the HPG blackout doesn't matter. Or it matters in a very limited way. Let's go with that. I can see an Alex Jones in Battletech now. Yes, Tanky is unfortunately not there because he's actually done a few very comedic readings of things as if he were Alex Jones in Battletech, including making jokes about ComStar. So yes, an Alex Jones in Battletech would be funny, and it would be a fun thing to have on the channel, just as a fun aside. Wave 2 and counterattack, that's basically, well, they were wanting to do a Wave 2, but then the DCMS struck back. So the first part here was the FFS kind of winning, and now it's them getting their asses handed to them by Teddy K. Not because Teddy K has, well, he has better technology that helps him, but it's more because he strikes everybody, everywhere, almost at once, and basically committed the entire DCMS to counter. And if Ants Davion had kept pushing, he'd probably have won. But he wouldn't know that he could have kept pushing. That's basically how it is. So it's kind of a very interesting aside. And a lot of you've got all the same planets saying like, okay, things are going, they were captured and now the DCMS is coming back, or the DCMS was already here and are doing something about it. So it gives you a bit of an interesting idea. We have a lot of suicide bombers, truck bombs, and all sorts of things as well, which is expected in this kind of war. We've got our nice sniper here. Not quite sure what it references, but it works as a piece of art. We've got our maps. One thing that I do find a little bit weird, not a whole lot of people die. I mean, a lot of people die generally, but not a lot of officers get taken out throughout this entire story, or not as much as we'd have in the different clan war and clan invasion era stuff. In the clan invasion stuff, we get a lot of officers dying. In this era, very few officers die. A lot of their troops die, and a lot of things get moved around, but officers themselves kind of pull through. There we go. We've got some Alex Jones right there. You view Ants Davion as more of a bookworm than an instinctual warrior. Ants Davion is is not a bookworm or an instinctual warrior. He is a textbook quality general. Basically is the equivalent of some of the very rare people we've had through history that are able to both manage an invasion and fight on its own. So he is a very interesting character. And we cannot unsee him as Will Shatner. Yes, Bill Shatner would have made a great Anstavion in his prime, in the 80s. It's not his prime, actually, but it would have been a good time for him.
Even though Hans was not that old.
He was much older than his bride, but not that old.
Right.
Sort of light doing stuff. One of the nice thing we get throughout it is that we do see those regiments that are going to be very important during the clan invasion show up here and there. And this whole section here about the fighting back is what the clans would have faced if they hadn't lost at Tukayid, basically. Give the Inner Sphere, another year.
6 months, 12 months.
Yeah, 6 months, 12 months. This is the kind of shit the clans would have had to deal with.
That's why I was saying that if the clans won Tukayid at the cost that they suffered, and FC and Karita got, blocked them from getting to Terra, they might have won it, but they don't necessarily have the power to claim it. You know what I'm saying?
This section has a lot more fighting in it, though, if you go through the different things. There's a lot of usage of pirate points throughout the entire book, which is I always find a little bit surprising. If pirate points are used that much, they should probably have people protecting those pirate points, or at least around those pirate points. But that's just part of the thing. Most of those sections, when you get to the end, is when do they pull out and how do they pull out. The DCMS lets the people go in most of those situations, surprisingly.
The pirate point thing is, how many are there in the system? Because there could be hundreds, there could be 2. It depends on the local geography. You can't guard 100 pirate points if there is.
Here we got a convoy raid. That's an odd picture, but it kind of works once again. And I mean, this convoy is done because there's a fire starter in the middle. That's going to mess things up quite a bit. Here we've got an officer that kind of fucks up. So when she comes back, she blames the mercenaries for messing things up. But then the MRBC exonerates the mercenaries, and she gets a demotion. Fun things. So this is some of those go really quick. Some of those take a lot of time, like Adenrai, July to December. This is a huge battle with all sorts of things going on. But this is where Nandi Steiner was. So, kind of where she stood. Got a few different one going on here. There's a random occurrence of war where a dropship decides to go land on Dieron, and the fire control on the big guns defending the starports decide that it's actually a Lyran Commonwealth ship and blows it up. The Lyran Commonwealth say that they're not the ones that did it. The Draconis Combine does say that they're not the ones that did it. Nobody takes responsibility, and everybody's mad. This is reasonable. Faltering of the AFS on limited logistics rather than poor logistics. It really doesn't have much to do with logistics. This particular war really has more to do with just how many troops can you deploy on worlds that don't want you on them, when the enemy can counterattack with just about as much troops as you've dumped. So things get really bad for just about everyone. And logistics is really not much of an issue because the Federated Sons add supply depots, they add stockpiles of equipment everywhere. They were ready for this war for 4 years before the war actually started.
And the other thing was the whole feint by Teddy was what really changed the war, because suddenly 6 units show up that nobody knows exist, and then suddenly, oh, how many more units do you have?
And when they attack the Federated Sons and the Lyran Commonwealth, they attack either very unimportant world, but they attack them very, very hard, or they go and reach some very important world and they do massive damage on them. And they don't use a whole lot of troops to do it either. I mean, you think it's 6 new regiment. No, it's actually just 6 battalions going on 6 worlds. So they do things a little bit more fancy. Here we've got someone like getting mad that the snakes were going to surrender, but he gets mad because remember a little place called Kentaris, like you said earlier, like it's been 200 years, bro. Just stop. We do have some bureaucracy problem being relayed here because on Formahalt, they basically forgot an entire regiment. They forgot the regiment was there. And, 2 years later, they were like, hey, we're here. And then the DCMS didn't remember that they were there either. Like, just, we've lost the planet. Okay. Wait, what happened with that planet again? Not sure. These kinds of things.
So it was a Black Thorns thing where they forgot they were on Galadon.
Here we've got a nice little fight scene. It's pretty simple, and I think it's simple but still nicer than a lot of the stuff we get nowadays because it looks cleaner at the same time. Here we've got another bureaucratic snafu where some officers give the Eridani Light Horse, use your discretion in carrying out the objectives given at the outset of the operation. So they take it as, okay, well, we're going to invade the next planet. So they get ready to go. And as they get ready to go, the Draconis Combine shows up on the system. So what are we supposed to do? And things keep going that way. And it makes the Eridani Light Horse really, really mad at the Federated Sons. They keep the contract, but they're mad at them. Latandu, where things went really well when they invaded. Yeah, when the Draconis Combine shows back up, this turns into a massive slaughterhouse and a massive battle on both sides.
Didn't the Fed Sons get back at the Eridani Light Horse by using the company store policy?
I can't remember that bit. Marduk was an issue with the Draconis Combine sending a new wave commander and an old school commander at the same planet, and them actually getting into it and fighting each other rather than fighting the AFFC. So, things went pretty bad there. They still kept the planet. Sandoval left, but they lost like way more than the AFFC lost. They only really left because there was no point in trying to keep the planet if, it's behind enemy lines and everything. So you've got Ans Davion actually being humble here. A nice little interview piece for Ans Davion saying that I blinked and he got me. He's actually being humble. Interesting to have that for a character. Not the most common thing to have for some of those characters. Then you've got the same kind of situation, an old school guy and a new school guy getting together, but here they actually work together and it actually works. So this is better. And you've got one of the many Cunninghams being related to that. This one, I have no clue what's really going on except two guys drinking sake. So there's you go. And you've got Lieutenant Colonel Trevor Cartman. I just laugh at the name whenever I see Cartman. Sorry. All sorts of little things going on. There's honestly not that many. Well, there's a lot of things going on. And if you want really to go into details, a lot of things are interesting. Here we've got a reference where a whole lot of people are showing up with lost tech weapons, and the 5th Davion guards not being quite well equipped to meet with that. Other actions is a bunch of smaller worlds and smaller situation where they kind of kept the worlds, but things didn't quite go as planned and things like that. We've got one of the issue during the War of 39. I wouldn't say, like we said earlier, I don't think it's logistics. It's command related a lot of times here. You add multiple field marshals from two different militaries getting into it and trying to figure out who was the actual hero and who was the actual commander. James Sandoval, being the commander of the Dragonist March Militia, was like, well, I'm in charge of the Dragonist March Militia. This isn't the Dragonist March. I'm in charge. Vanessa Bilswa was like, well, no, I'm the commander of the Lyran Commonwealth, and those are Lyran Commonwealth unit. I should be in command of them, and things going back and forth between the two. So the two kind of get into it, and we get a nice detail of those two officers, two field marshals, kind of getting into it. But then you add to that, you also have Arden Sortek over there. You also have Anandi Steiner. You have Ans Davion in the back trying to control everything. So things get progressively worse. You've got your different mercenary supported action. Here things go good or worse. Galtor is very interesting because that's an important world to Ans Davion. So that's an important one to have there. Which one is this here? Pro-Combine Militias. New Aberdeen. This one here I found really interesting because the problem on this particular planet, other than having the Cunningham's commando on there, so another Cunningham, is that basically they landed. They were like, hey, we're here to take over the planet. Is that okay? And you have the supporter of the Draconist Combine, the supporter of the AFFS, getting in the street and fighting each other like crazy and basically doing full-on gang war for the entire planet, and the Cunningham's commando actually having to referee the whole thing rather than doing their actual mission. So, yeah, things can get pretty bad. Well, Royal stayed in the hands of their rightful rulers, so that was a start. And thing, that's Arden Sortek trying to figure out what the hell he's going on with everybody fighting him back. This is Arden Sortek fighting a charger. We know it's Arden Sortek because he's got his Victor right there. And that's a charger, unfortunately. And it seems to be a very basic charger, so I don't give him a very high probability of survival in this particular battle. We get a lot more details. Since it's the Arden Sortek story on Antang, we get a lot more details because they know how to write Arden Sortek, basically. Capra, anything interesting in this one that I noted really quick? Just looking, not really. People not wanting to pull in their conventional forces. Nothing super weird. Here we have something that I don't see often in Battletech. We were outnumbered, outgunned, and by all account, outmotivated. But by God, I made Miyako Tsabo my bitch. This is something you don't see in Battletech very often. This kind of language. We see it on, We see it on message boards, but we don't see it in the books very often. That's the thing. At least we used to not see it as much.
You saw it in some of the Twilight of the Clan stuff, like in Falcon Rising, for example.
When did that come out?
Before this book came out, so 98.
Okay. So
97.
It's just not something that I've seen very often in Battletech in general.
Yeah, the Sortek family has been robbed. But again, they had to rewrite the ending of the Dark Ages 3 or 4 times. So, man,
not surprising. There's so much stuff going on in this book. It's not even funny.
And just think that book is for, like I said, 18 months. For all intents and purposes.
For all intents and purposes, it's 18 months of story. And not even, it's closer to 9 months, because you get a little bit before, a little bit after, but really that war is 9 months. That's about it. And a whole lot of stuff happens.
Well, with all the setup and stuff, it turns into the whole.
The counterattack by the Draconis Combine, like I said here, this is the really fancy bit where they just send 10 battalions and they make it sound like it's 10 regiments. So that's a really good job by Teddy K to get the things going. And we get a nice aside here saying like, it's easy enough to say that there's no way the Combine would have survived if Hans Davion actually ordered the second wave of strikes. But it's hindsight is 2020. When it happens, you have no idea it's happening, basically. I mean, if Sven gets to that stuff, he'll probably will, but it'll probably take him quite a while, to be quite honest. But he generally does a really good job with that kind of stuff. So we're going through all sorts of things. Clovis. Here we've got the Grommet Milmec. That was on Breed, if I remember right, where they landed, and the locals had all sorts of industrial mechs that they plugged in a large laser and an AC5 on. You know, it works. No, that was Undonable. Okay, it's Undonable. When I saw that picture at first, I wasn't sure what it is. It does say ear. So I looked it up, and this is a fun industrial mech. I'm not sure why it has a plug on the top here, since it has a fusion engine, but it has a gurney on it. Not a gurney, a gantry on it, if you want to get to the cockpit. Kind of fancy. All sorts of weird things going on. Here we've got Theodore Curia's wife hiring a bunch of mercenaries, even though there was a debt to mercenaries going on. The thing is, when someone shows up with a crate full of money, you take the money and you do the job.
Well, I was going to say that there, in other books, it's also explained that it was just basically against the Dragoons.
It was against all mercenaries that they didn't like, basically.
Right. It was a list.
It was a list, and if you weren't on the list, you were on the list, basically.
Right.
So, I mean, if you were not on the list of the nice ones, you were on the list of the bad ones. Other Wave 2 action. Older men declare war, but it's the young that must fight and die. Edbert Hoover. Well, that's nice. Then you've got a quote from Natasha Kerensky. Train your young boys well, because otherwise they won't get past this old woman. There you go. That is quite accurate.
I was gonna say, no matter how well you train them, they're not going to pass that old woman. One way or the other, she will destroy them.
She's a legend in BattleTech. At least there's a few characters like that still.
Unfortunately, there are no current characters that I would say will ever get to that point.
Right now, not really. Unfortunately, no characters are super interesting, or at least in that particular kind of general area. We've got more Free World League operation. One where they tried to land on a planet, but the locals aided them far more than they aided the Steiners, so they got their asses kicked. Safe didn't work on that one. Then again, safe actually working. That's a new thing altogether. Kellison. Oh, this one, the Free Worlds League lands on the planet and they fight for 30 minutes. They lose 2 companies and they're like, it's fine. We're just gonna go. We're not staying here. Bye. All is where Natasha Kerensky bids a trinary, no, not a trinary, a cluster against the enemy. She literally does the whole clan thing through the whole thing. So they also land on Christmas Eve and get the pilots while they're partying. So that makes her life a little bit easier. But they go through it here like, yeah, we now know that this was basically her being a clanner rather than being an inner sphere pilot. Kaplan operations, yes, the Cappies did something. Romano Liao was going insane, more than she was before. Basically, the Big Mac decided to go and attack the Federated Sons. The idea was just to, actually do something because everybody was very depressed and very losing. Did the Big Mac do any good? No, because as soon as they figured out that this was going on, Morgan Asek kind of turned around and went and beat them up. But it did raise the morale of the Kaplan Confederation. So that's a good start, I guess.
I mean, when morale's 0, there is only one way it can go up.
There you go. They did do a decent number of strikes that were decently successful. Stole a bunch of stuff. Stole battle mechs. Stole various drop ships. They did an okay job. They went pretty quickly through various things. They landed on battle where they originally had that triple strength Myomer, that fake triple strength Myomer on there. They landed. They blew a bunch of stuff up as a comeback. We got more Cunninghams because always more Cunninghams.
It's like Davians. There are always more Davians.
On Galitzin, they did a whole lot of damage because they blew up a new factory that they were building. So that was an important thing. They landed on Kitil. That was, once again, a bad idea because they were actually being waited for and they lost a whole lot of stuff. But, the Big Mac did a little bit better. On Monaghan, what they stole was a little bit of military supply and 2,000 barrels of wine and other alcohol. That's a good thing to steal. I'm perfectly okay with that. On this planet, they stole 247 tons. It's very precise of equipment. They probably played a game and it ended up that way. That's what I think for that one here.
Yeah. What did they steal? 247 of what?
Weapons, spare parts, armor, rations. So all things that the Kaplan Confederation would probably need, especially the rations.
It sounds like they had 4 mechs that grabbed stuff, and that was the exact carrying capacity of those 4 mechs.
In retaliation, Morgan Asek struck Ares, did a bunch of damage. They struck Grand Base and killed a bunch of Det Commandos. That's always a good thing. That's what the Det Commandos deserve. They hit the Big Mac's capital on Menke, so that hurts them quite a bit. And they destroyed basically a new regiment that they were raising, and that regiment never reached combat status. There you go. And on Victoria, they did the same thing that they did on one of the Davion planet. They blew up a new factory, so they slowed down the production of new mechs for the Capellan Confederation. So there you go. Aftermath gives you what happened afterwards, including Katrina Steiner dying in her sleep. That's basically what, well, it's not what really stopped the war, but it really gave you an idea of like the end of it. You see the trades that happened. The Federated Sun lost 3 planets, and they won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 planets. I mean, would that sound like a win to you? Well, it sounds like a win until you realize that Canton was a major production plant. All the planets that are captured were, minor worlds with nothing really fancy on them. So even though the Fed Suns
lose Quentin also, that was
Fed Suns lost Quentin, where they were building their Jaeger mech. So there you go, big loss, because they weren't loved their Jaeger mechs.
I thought I had Jaeger mech and Victors for some reason.
It's possible that they built Victors there. I'd have to check.
Oh, I got it. Give me a second.
The biggest win is that the Combine restored their image as a military that could actually do stuff. That's a good thing. The Allies got their nose bloodied. Things got pretty bad. And there was apparently a coup or an attempted coup by a Yakuza trying to install Theodore as a coordinator. But we don't get much more details on it. That probably is in what's the name of the book?
Heir to the Empire, or Heir to the Dragon.
Heir to the Dragon. And I haven't read Heir to the Dragon in the longest time, so I can't remember.
Go Index.
So this is a massive book with a massive amount of stuff. It gives you all sorts of ideas as to what you can do for games and what you can do for RPG, for campaigns, for just pickup games set up in that era. Is it a book that everybody should read? I don't think so. Only if you're really into the lore, especially if you're in the early lore of the setting. It'd be a good book to read. For the later people, basically, if you're really more into the clan invasion stuff, might not be a necessary read or a first thing you should read. Basically, that's what I would say about this book.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to tell you exactly what Quentin actually produced at the time, but Atlas's, Victor's, Jaeger mech, definitely.
I mean, that's a bad factory to lose.
Yeah. Later, it developed Chimeras, Hatchetmen, Tessans, Exhumers, Ryjans, Excaliburs, Marauders.
Well, the Excalibur is an old model. So.
Right. Well, no, it was the ComStar variant.
Okay.
It was a CC or CS, sorry. So it actually produced Marauders at the time because it's 3R and 5D. So the Ninja Toe, I can't pronounce it, the Shujinja or something like that.
Shugenja.
They started making Hamados, Gunslingers, Akumas, Nagintas, more Atlases, Marauder 2s, Peacekeeper, and Taishos.
I mean, it is a massive factory world. So
yeah.
So
and
overall,
actually,
I would say this is a book to buy if you're into that kind of stuff. And the PDF is not terribly expensive, but the physical copy of the book will run you a decent chunk of change. So it is what you want to get and what you want to buy, really.
I looked at it before. It's $20 for the PDF.
I would say it is pretty worth it in terms of
Yeah.
the quantity and the quality of material you get in it. I'm not going to give it a percentage out of whatever or whatever. I don't like doing that, but this is not a must buy book, but one of the books you should buy if you're into the setting or if you're interested in the history of it, or if you're wanting to run games in that general area. For Succession War, War of 39, which is not covered enough, quite honestly, here, because the focus is really on that 3050 to Civil War for most people.
Honestly, it was a really it's basically the second book, because it was the first second historical book, or was it the first? Did it beat Brush Wars? I can't remember. But basically, it was FedCom Civil War and then Brush Wars and War of 39 that really set the stage for what a source book should be from the lore standpoint.
And this is what they should be copying instead of doing what they're doing right now. There we go.
Well, again, like I said earlier, the issue is, with the books I just mentioned, the events were over, so you had a full timeline. With what we're currently seeing, it's a whole different ballgame. Like you said, it's more like Dawn of Jihad than what we're getting.
That's a problem in managing the IP. You should have your timelines and all your stuff already written and just plop thing in.
Honestly, I think if they wanted to get this type of book out again, they should do a Fourth War book. And like I've said on the previous stream, was they probably need to do a 3048 to 3052 book.
Would be an idea. I'd like an Age of War book, an actual Age of War book. That'd be interesting. Same with a reunification war book, a serious reunification war book. But, that's probably not going to happen.
What's wrong with the current reunification war book?
It is very SLDF heavy, let's say, and a very slanted.
There is no dedicated Fourth War book except for the two ancient books from first days of FESA.
Mm-hmm. We'll see what they do. I mean, it is what it is. We've been going for 2 hours and a half now.
Yeah.
So I thank everybody for watching. I'm going to sign off. We've already discussed what's coming up this week. There might be an extra video or two. We'll see how it goes. And I will see everybody later. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Take care, everyone.